What's up, everybody? I am SuperSonic 1787 from the Unknown Gamers, and welcome to another edition of Pokemon Wi-Fi Battles with yours truly. In this episode, we are doing a special Halloween themed, as today is Halloween as we speak. Well, it is quarter to 1 a.m. right now as I'm recording this, since I was kind of preoccupied watching Yu-Gi-Oh! On Netflix. But anyways, with that being said, I will be bringing two battles today. One against my very good friend Gregory, who goes by the name Greg the Impaler. He's a good friend of mine. We've known each other since middle school. Yeah, that long. And he actually wanted to do a Halloween themed battle and actually took him up on his challenge. And of course, in the second battle of our video, I went up against our very own Dreadnought 316. And I'll just say this, like, out of the two battles that I had with these two guys, Greg doesn't really play competitively, and we just pretty much battle for fun. However, on the battle that I had with Rick, aka Dreadnought 316, we played a competitive battle. So, we'll check out those two contrasting battles today, and let's go ahead and start with the first one. Now, he's been playing on X and Y, I've been playing on ORAS, so that's why you're going to hear the X and Y battle theme. Alright, so he sends out Nocturna, his Noivern, in the first turn, and I go out into Crawler my Galvantula. Now, I don't know what I was thinking here. I decided to go for the Sticky Web in this turn. And in my head, I was kind of thinking that what if I were to hinder his team's speed? Now, I wasn't too sure if ghosts were really affected by it, because I was really rusty in this battle. And I did some pretty big misplays, like you will see as the battle rolls on. So I end up hitting a Volt Switch, which turns out to be his Zoroark. And it's a purple Zoroark. I believe that's a shiny, I'm not sure. I don't even know what its shiny color is. So then I U-turn into my Bats, which is the gold bat here. Or U-turn, Volt Switch, sorry. So he hits me with the Shadow Claw, and I take it like a champ, because my Crobat is invested in HP and defense, I think. So I go for a U-turn, and I end up taking out his Zoroark. So that gives me the Switch initiative here. So I end up going with Hazel, which is my Delphox. And it is holding the Assault Vest. So that means I have no status move whatsoever. And here is the beginning of my first misplays. I go for the Dazzling Gleam, because in my head I was thinking, okay, he's a dark type, but then I didn't realize it was part fire as well. So it ended up being a neutral hit on it. But luckily I was able to take out half of its HP, so I went for the Shadow Ball on the second hit. And that's where my stupidity starts to kick in. I'm like, okay, why did I do that? So, luckily, I live on 4 HP, and I take out this Houndoom with Dazzling Gleam. And I'm just thinking to myself, like, wow, after those two big misplays, my Delphox survived that. So now he goes into his Mismagius here. Mismagius, I don't know how you say it. So I decide to switch out into Felix, which is my Umbreon. And I was just, yeah, this battle was so bad on my part. Like, I totally forgot what the typings were, like what the type advantages, weaknesses, and all that. So I was pretty much playing like a noob in this battle. So with Felix here, I was able to withstand the Thunderbolt, since I am specially defensive. So I go for a Foul Play. And I end up one-hit KOing his Mismagius, which ends up being a crit. So that's 2 Pokemon down. And I get some recovery with some leftovers. So now he sends out his Gourgeist, that fat pumpkin. So now that I see that Sticky Web does come into play a bit, and that kind of answers my question of before, where I'm thinking, like, is it really worth it to play Sticky Web in the start of the turn? So now I switch out to my Bats here, and he goes for Will-O-Wisp, which was really smart on his part. He read me really well, thinking that I will go into my Crobat, so now my attack is half. And not only that, I went for the Brave Bird. And this was pretty interesting of the item he put on his Gourgeist. Even though I took a decent amount of damage, he had the Rocky Helmet on. And I took recoil damage, and it activated my Citrus Berry. So I'm all like, okay, this isn't looking good right now. So in this turn he goes for the Leech Seed. Take some health away from Crobat. So as of now, my Crobat is practically useless. And his Gourgeist is regaining health back. So then what I end up doing in this turn, I just U-turn out of there. which hardly did anything since that thing is a physical defensive tank. And so I ended up switching out here, and I went for Felix my Umbreon. So he goes for Phantom Force, and I'm like, okay, so I won't be able to attack him for a turn. So I use this opportunity to not just heal up. I mean, I didn't even heal up. I went for Wish. I thought I went for Moonlight there. So then he goes for the Phantom Force. Didn't really deal much damage because I'm not affected by it. So I pretty much get the damage recovered with my leftovers. Then I go for the Foul Play, and I believe that will still keep it on the field. No, I took it out. And of course I got hurt by the Rocky Helmet. So I took out his Gourgeist now, so that's 3 Pokemon down so far. And my wish came true, so I'm back at full health with my Umbreon. So he goes back out into his Noivern. Of course, he first my leftovers. Goes for the Air Slash. So I take that hit pretty well. Then I go for the Foul Play. Since I'm going second, it should deal more damage, but it only dealt about roughly 25 to 30% of damage, which isn't too bad. But I do get some health back with some leftovers, as always. So I decide to switch out, and I go into my Trevenant, which is the most stupidest thing I could have done, because he has Air Slash, and I didn't think of that. However, he went for the Super Fang here, so I got lucky on that turn. And then we went for Air Slash in the second turn. And I got a crit on that, and I got flinched as well. So he got the flinch hacks on me. So he ends up KOing my Spooky Tree since I sent it out for Death Fodder. Because my main intention was to use Will-O-Wisp in that turn to, get some chip damage off. So now I go into Hazel. And I'm thinking, okay, 4 HP. He's down pretty low as well. So I went for the Dazzling Gleam here, and he didn't switch out. So I end up KOing his Noivern, which was a huge threat. And that was a huge KO for me. So next he sends out his Banette here, who is affected by the Sticky Web. So I switch out my Hazel, and then I go into my Gengar. And when I was battling against Greg, I facepalmed right there. I'm like, I can't believe I did that. Because I know Banette is a physical attacker. And lo and behold, after he Mega Evolves, he goes for Shadow Claw. And that pretty much one-hit KOs my freaking Gengar. I'm like, I can't believe I did that. I'm like, man, what am I doing? So I'm just thinking, okay, I'll just keep on going. I'll just throw out my other Pokemon at it. Just deal some damage as best as I can. So I go out for the Thunder, and luckily my Crawler is Compoundized. But it dealt about half damage, and it also got the Para Hacks, so which was good. So he ends up killing off my my Galvantula with Shadow Claw. So I believe I'm only down to what? I think 3 Pokemon at this point. So I go for Bats, go for the Brave Bird, even though it's like half attack power with the burn. See how much damage I could deal. And that dealt a pretty decent amount. Then I get some recoil damage, and then he just kills me off with the Shadow Claw. So I'm just pretty much throwing Pokemon out there. And last but not least, I go for my Hazel and deal the finishing blow with a Psyshock. And with that, I would seal the victory against my friend Greg. And yeah, that was just misplay heavy on my part. Oh my god, I can't believe I did that. But anyways, I thank you so much, Greg, for the battle. And it was a lot of fun, even though it wasn't really competitive, but it was all in good fun. And thank you so much. And with that, stay tuned for the next battle in just a moment. Alright, we are back with our second battle with our very own Dreadnought 316, my tag team partner and brother from another mother. And in this battle, it is one of the coolest battles I've ever had with a team I don't use. So with that being said, let's go ahead and check out this battle. And itch my nose. Alright, so he sends out his Cofagrigus on his first turn, and I go out into my Spooky Tree, which is Trevenant. And I just thought to myself, I need to switch out here. So I switched out my Trevenant, and I go into my Felix, which is the Umbreon. And he went for a smart play here. He goes for the knockoff, predicting the switch of whatever I switched into. So luckily for him, he got the Umbreon, so he took out my leftovers in this turn. And he is Life Orbed. as we saw. So in this turn, he would withdraw his Cofagrigus and go into Noivern, which is, of course, a threat that I dealt with in the previous battle with Greg. So I go for the foul play here, and I dealt about roughly 25 to 30% of damage. So I switch out in the next turn, I go out into my Hazel, the Delphox, and then he decides to go for a Draco Meteor, which is stab, high-powered move, yet my Delphox does have the Assault Vest on her, so she was able to take the hit, and it took about roughly 60% of damage, and he goes into -2 in special attacks. So he decides to switch out in this turn, go out, back out into his Cofagrigus, predicting my Dazzling Gleam, so he was able to take that hit. Of course, he gets his leftovers, gets some chip recovery back. And then in this next turn, I go for the Shadow Ball here. And his Cofagrigus is defensive. It has HP, and I believe it has like part in defense, part in special defense. So he goes for a Shadow Ball of his own. And that will KO my Hazel, which is a huge loss for me, because I have all those type coverages. So I'm down 1 Pokemon already. And then his Cofagrigus will just restore some HP with his leftovers. So now I'll go back into my Felix. And then I was pretty much reading his switch here. So he goes out into his Jellicent. And then I go for foul play. I dealt a decent amount of damage, and I was hoping his Curse Body wasn't going to activate there, but luckily it didn't. So now I would switch out Umbreon into my Crobat here. I was predicting him to use Toxic on me. So I switched out into Crobat, and which he did use Toxic, and it didn't affect him. So that was a crucial play on my part. Like, I couldn't really risk getting my Umbreon poisoned at that point, since he would be outsped by Jellicent. So in turn, I would go for Toxic of my own. I would poison his Jellicent. And then he goes for the Scald. Just kind of hoping he would get the Scald Burden on the first turn that he used it. But luckily that did not happen. So now he would get recovery, and then he would get some damage with the poison. Alright, so I end up using the Brave Bird here, seeing how much damage I could deal, even though he was very tanky. So that dealt a decent amount of damage, and my Brave Bird gets disabled, plus the recoil. And now he goes for a second Scald, which takes it down to a burn. So luckily my Citrus does activate in this turn, so I get some HP back. But now that I'm burned, I'm pretty much useless at this moment. However, he would still get some poison damage dealt to his Jellicent, slowly dwindle him down, and I'll get some chip damage from the burn. So I end up roosting in this turn, and gain some HP back. And then he pretty much goes for the same recovery. So both of us pretty much are back at green. I'm slightly higher HP than him. And I get some leftovers recovery back. Then take some poison damage, which is stacking. It takes a decent amount. And of course I take the burn damage. So that turn was basically just recovering. And then I go for a second roost here. So I'm pretty much back at full at the moment. And then he decides to taunt me. So my Brave Bird is disabled. I'm taunted, so I can't use Toxic, I can't use Roost. So my only attack available with Crobat at this point is U-turn. Otherwise I would have been like, struggling if he were to disable my U-turn. So I pretty much get out of there, just deal some chip damage to the Jellicent, even though it's not very effective. But damage counts no matter how you have it. So I switch out into my Felix, which is the Umbreon. And then he goes for the recover here. So gain his HP back. So it's pretty much like a stall fest pretty much for a while here. Of course, he's taking more poison damage. Then he tries to Toxic me, but to no avail. Even though I was Toxic. And Synchronize didn't really mean anything. I used the Heal Bell, because I was expecting him to use Toxic on me. So now the poison is gone from Felix, and Bat's burn is healed. So now Crobat is back into full power Brave Birding anybody that comes his way. So now Rick had to make a decision. He withdraws his Jellicent, so that means the stacked up poison damage will be set back to normal. Goes out into his Noivern. So I Moonlight here, expecting to switch. So I would go back into full HP. And then he U-turns here, which dealt, what, maybe 20%? Maybe not even 20%, it was like 15 or, yeah, roughly 15. So it goes into the Ariados. So I go for the foul play here. Deal some decent amount of damage to Ariados, just below half. So it goes for the Mega Horn. And it is a physically attacking Ariados. And luckily I did survive that hit. So I go for the foul play, and I end up KOing his Ariados in that turn. So now he resends his Noivern again. And I decide to switch out Felix and go into my Spooky Tree. Spooky Tree. So I go into my Trevenant. Goes for the Draco. And I believe I do survive this. Yeah, it took like 75% of damage. Goes for the -2, so he switches out yet again. Goes into his Cofagrigus. And here I go for the rest, just to get my HP back. Now, although I was using rest here, just to get my HP back, that will activate my Lumberry to wake me up instantly. So he'll be recovering some HP with his leftovers. Then I go for the Horn Leech here, which didn't really deal too much damage, so I wasn't able to restore much HP either. So now my Harvest ability is gone thanks to his Mummy ability. Then he uses Pain Split, so he gets a lot of his HP back, and then he brings me down to like close to half. Then he gains more HP with some leftovers. So I end up using Leech Seed here. Why did I do that? I have no idea. It's probably like one of my very few misplays in this battle. So he goes for the Shadow Ball. That would take out my, almost take out my Spooky Tree. I spoke too soon. So I survive on 5 HP. So I would get some Leech Seed recovery back. And bring him back to like what, 25 HP in this move. So I go for the Will-O-Wisp here. Even though his Cofagrigus is not really a physical attacker, I just wanted it for chip damage mainly. So I'll just let him KO my Spooky Tree here. Just left it for Death Fodder. And then he would get some recovery damage, but it would pretty much be nullified with the burn damage. And then in this turn, I go into my Not Casper, which is Gengar. So then I go for the Shadow Ball. And I believe that takes out his Cofagrigus. Yes, it does. So Cofagrigus is now down. So then he brings out his Jellicent. And this was weird to me. Like, I was looking at it and it's like, wait, it's not poison. And then I realized it's his Zoroark. So I go for the taunt. And he kept on going for Sucker Punch. he was expecting me to go for Shadow Ball or something, but I totally outplayed him here. So I taunted him, I burned him, then I switch out into my Umbreon. And then he goes for a knockoff, which only dealt about 14 damage to Umbreon. And then we see here he's Life Orbed. And he gets the burn damage, so he's dealing a lot, taking a lot of damage here. Tries to go for the Sucker Punch again, and I end up going for Moonlight. So that's 3 failed Sucker Punches. I'm sorry, bro. But I don't know, that was really funny to me. And then of course, we all know, Jellicent cannot learn Sucker Punch. So now that his taunt wore off, he decides to withdraw it. And then he goes out back into his Noivern. And I went for Foul Play, so I dealt roughly another 25% of damage. Excuse me. Goes for the Draco Meteor. I'm specially defensive, so I should be able to take this hit fairly well. It took me down to the red. And then I used the Moonlight here, so I would pretty much get the amount of HP back from the damage that I took earlier. So now he's like thinking, okay, what do I do here? So switch out Noivern. Then he goes into his Trevenant. Then here I go for the foul play. And that almost KO'd Trevenant there. So that activated his Citrus Berry. So he would get some HP back. So he switches out Trevenant and goes into his fake Jellicent. So I go for the foul play here. And as we see that it wasn't very effective, and that reveals the Zoroark. So he was thinking a lot in this battle, like what he could do. So even though I didn't hit him with an effective move, the burn damage did take out his Zoroark. And then he brings out his real Jellicent. And he recovers on his first move, as you saw there. He outspeeds Umbreon. So he was nearly at full. I go for the foul play. And then even though knowing that I would get hit with the Cursed Body, so now foul play is disabled. So basically at this point, Umbreon is only able to use status moves. So now I get some poison damage there. I switch out my Umbreon because I believe he went for Taunt in this turn. So I switch out into my Gengar. He goes for the Taunt, which is fine. Because all I had was Taunt and Will-O-Wisp on Gengar. And then he would get some more recovery back. And then take some poison damage. So then in this turn, I would go for the Shadow Ball. And that would just take him down. And then the Cursed Body disables my Shadow Ball. So I only have one move left. And luckily it was an actual move. So struggle was not initiated at that point. So he goes for the Hurricane in this turn, which misses. And then I go for the Sludge Wave. And I ended up taking out his Noivern after that crucial miss on his part. So now the Taunt wears off. He goes back into his Trevenant. Go for Sludge Wave again. That will not KO it. It would just leave him with just a sliver of health left. Tries to go for the substitute, but it did not go his way. So I end up finishing Trevenant with another Sludge Wave, taking him down, and that ends the battle with Dreadnought. And Dreadnought, brother, that was one of the greatest battles I've ever had with teams that we never even used. That was so much fun. You really brought out the best of me, brother. We're going to have some more battles together coming real soon. And we did some more battles like before, but I have to still record those videos. But anyways, that concludes today's episode of Pokemon Wi-Fi Battles with SuperSonic 71087. And we will join you next time with some more videos. Anyways, I want to thank you all so much for watching. If you guys enjoyed this video, click the like button down below. Share with your friends, family, and all that good stuff. And with that being said, on behalf of QD and Dreadnought 316, I'm SuperSonic of the Unknown Gamers, and I'm signing off. See you guys next time.